What's going on, everybody? For my final project, I decided to explore how math is used in aviation. I focused mostly on fuel and distance calculations because aviation is something I've always been interested in, and I really wanted to see how the math we learned in class connects to flying. For my experience, I spent most of the time in the flight simulator and paying attention to things like distance, speed, fuel use, and estimated flight time. I also was able to speak with a SkyWest pilot about how pilots use these calculations during real-world flights. Although the pilot did not want to be shown in the video, we had an excellent conversation, and I will just show footage of my flight simulator instead while I talk about it. Between using the simulator, planning the flights, looking at different numbers, researching the topic, and speaking with the pilot, I spent over 10 hours exploring aviation math for this project. Alright, I have a flight plan and a load sheet pulled up on the screen now, so let's hop into the nitty-gritty. One of the main formulas used in aviation is distance equals speed multiplied by time. This can also be rearranged to find the time of a flight by dividing the distance by the speed. For example, if an airplane's traveling 300 nautical miles and is moving at a ground speed of 300 knots, the flight's going to take about 1 hour. This is a simple example, but the same type of calculation is used when estimating flight times and arrival times. Fuel can also be calculated using a rate. If a plane burns a certain amount of fuel each hour, the length of the flight can be used to estimate how much fuel you're going to need. For example, if a plane burns 1,000 hours on average, or 1,000 pounds on average of fuel per hour, and the flight lasts 2 hours, it's going to burn around 2,000 pounds of fuel. Real flights are way more complicated than this because fuel burn can change during taxi times, takeoff times, climbing, cruising, and landing. But the idea is still based on rates and multiplication. And that's also why it is an average. This connects to several things that we talked about in the course. Because we did estimate and we had to use units. So definitely there's some lapse over from the course that's going to help us with this. And aviation uses several different units such as nautical miles for distance, knots for speed, hours and minutes for time, and pounds and gallons for fuel. And the units are important because using the wrong unit could completely change the answer. For example, knots are based on nautical miles per hour, not regular miles per hour. So pilots have to make sure that they know what each number represents before using it in a calculation. Alrighty, this next picture is awesome because it makes it way easier to explain what I learned. So, the first new fact I learned is that an airplane's speed through the air is not always the same as it is across the ground. A tailwind can push the airplane along and increase its ground speed. This makes the flight shorter and reduces the amount of fuel used. And a headwind works against the airplane, which lowers the ground speed and makes the flight take longer. For example, an airplane might be flying through the air at 300 knots, but with a strong tailwind, its ground speed could be higher than 300 knots. With a headwind, the ground speed could be lower than 300 knots. I thought this was really interesting because the airplane may be flying at the same airspeed, which is the air going over the wings, but the flight time can still change depending on the wind. This also means that weather is part of the math that's involved with flight planning. Alrighty. This is an image of a load sheet which will show you all of your weights, which is your fuel, your passengers, everything you need to know. So the second new fact that I learned is that pilots do not only plan enough fuel to reach the destination, but they also plan extra fuel just in case something happens or changes during the flight. Extra fuel may be needed because of bad weather, delays, a longer route, holding in the air, or having difficulty landing. And having to go around at the airport that they're trying to land at, or even having to land at a different airport. Pilots and flight planners have to think ahead and calculate enough fuel for different situations. This showed me that the fuel planning process is not just about getting from one airport to another. It involves preparing for things that may not go, completely as planned. Here's a pretty cool weight and balance sheet I was able to find. And the third thing that I learned is that fuel can make up a large amount of the airplane's total weight. Adding more fuel allows the airplane to fly further, but it also makes the airplane a lot heavier. A heavier airplane may require more runway to take off and will use more fuel during the flight. This creates an interesting situation because carrying extra fuel can improve safety, but carrying too much unnecessarily can make the plane less efficient. Pilots and flight planners have to find the right balance between having enough fuel and avoiding extra weight that is not needed. When I talked with a SkyWest pilot, one of the main things I learned was that computers help pilots with almost all of their calculations, but pilots still need to be able to understand the math behind the numbers. A flight computer may show the arrival time, fuel remaining, speed, and distance, but pilots have to decide whether those numbers actually make sense. They also have to notice when something changes during the flight. For example, if the wind becomes stronger than expected, the pilot may need to check the weather and still see if they have enough fuel. They cannot just simply trust the computer without understanding the information. While using the flight simulator, I noticed that estimated arrival times and fuel remaining changed throughout the flight, and this helped me see how speed, time, and distance, and fuel, and weather are all connected. Alright, enough about aviation. My favorite part of the course was budgeting because it felt the most useful for real life. I like learning where money goes, comparing expenses, and making better financial decisions. Thank you so much for watching.